RIK Emmett, Triumph's legendary guitarist, singer, and songwriter, joins us for an exclusive Q&A session answering burning questions sent in by you, the VRP Rocks subscribers. From the story behind his iconic white V guitar to surviving the pressures of singing Triumph's most demanding songs night after night, Rick shares fascinating tales from his incredible career. Plus, you'll hear his thoughts on some epic performances, the MTV era, and his clumsiness on stage, and much more as well in this candid, entertaining session with one of rock's true greats. I'm Paul Stevenson from VRP Rocks, and this is Rik Emmett. I've got a question here from Ronnie Parker, who says, does Rick still have his white V-shaped guitar from the Triumph years? It's my favorite wicked guitar of his.
The original one, I sold it at one point in amongst of a collection of stuff to the Hard Rock Cafe. They bought about 10 or 12 of my guitars in one go. So, and I've had people, they'll send me a text or something. They'll go, hey, Rick, I'm in the Hard Rock in Stockholm, and your guitar is just outside the men's washroom, But they move them around. So sometimes I'll get one and somebody say, hey, Rick, I'm at the Hard Rock in Vegas, man. Your V is here. So that V, it makes the rounds of the Hard Rocks. The ones that got made that were reissues, I got a few of those, and the one that I kept, I gave one to some people that work for me, and the one that I kept and I had played live and used in Sweden with Triumph. My son has it on a wall in his house. I did a thing believe it or not, when we moved here, I downsized. This was only a chunk of my collection. And so I let my kids kind of go through another chunk. I put a bunch of guitars out and I said, pick any one you want, any two or three that you want, as long as you build a shrine for me in your house, and you can pick a gold record or a platinum record to go with it. So the kids, I call them my kids, but, we're talking people that are between the ages of 35 to 42 now, those folks, they have shrines, and the white V is in my son's house. And it's got the Allied Forces Platinum record, and he's got the V. So,
perfect place to have it. Sounds fantastic. I've got a question here from Dizzy Busy 88. I love these names on YouTube, by the way. Dizzy Busy says, "What was the pressure like to be expected to sing such difficult parts live, almost perfectly every night?"
Wow. Well, it's nice that they say almost perfectly. I got to admit, I had anxiety constantly, because it was a high pressure thing for me to get out on that high wire naked and no safety net and have to do that. They were high. Those parts were, we opened for Journey once, and Steve Perry came to me and said, my God, are you singing like B's and D's and E's? And I went, yeah. And he went, oh man, do you do that every night? I'm going, yeah. He's going, oh my God, that's insane, and it was. Now, having said that, Steve Perry had to sing every single song for Journey. I only had to sing half the songs. So when Gil would sing one, I could kind of be resting. I would run around the stage, but I could be resting my pipes a little bit and gearing up for the next one. And then there was always a good, 10-minute drum solo in every. So the Triumph set was kind of designed so that I could always rest up and get ready for the next one. Sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. The thing that's been lovely is that in my life, there's a lot of play for example, the US Festival, footage from 1983. I had a good day, and I had a good day because we'd only had to do a 1 hour show, less, maybe a 50-minute show the night before in Florida, opening on a ZZ Top outdoor thing. We flew over to California, and then we only had to do like a 60-minute show there. And so it was like, hey, this won't be so hard, and I can really give, because I don't have to do a 90, and I won't have to do all the songs. I have to do these ones. So, we were artful in the way that we approached it, and I was crafty.
Best way to be. You just mentioned Ozfest there. I've got to ask you about that as well. I mean, some incredible bands are on that day along with you. Was it Van Halen and Motley Crue and Priest, I think, and various others as well. I mean, what are your memories from that day?
Well, I certainly remember being on that bill and thinking, I don't think we belong on this bill.
Ah, no way.
You know, we were the outlier. But well, I mean, part of it was Steve Wozniak's money. It was Apple's, Macintosh's money, and uh, we were one of his favorite bands, and so he wanted us on that bill. And I think we proved that day that we were a pretty good band in our own way. Yes, we weren't like, Scorpions and Priest and Motley Crue and Van Halen. They were a lot heavier, harder hitting than we were. But we were kind of a band that was like when Triumph first started, we were a Led Zeppelin copy band playing bars. And so Led Zeppelin was a band that kind of, it had that sort of float like a butterfly, hammer like the gods, style of, and we were a very Led Zeppelin-y kind of rock band. And I liked, bands like Journey and Foreigner and Styx, and that there was a melodic kind of approach. So we were a bit of an outlier, but I enjoyed it. And I mean, I think the Scorpions played after us, and to me, they sounded really good. They were tight, and they had a really good band sound. But I didn't get to see a lot of the other bands. We kind of flew in a helicopter, played our gig, hang around a little bit, and then flew back out, and we were gone. But I'm going to mention this just because you're English. We played Stoke-on-Trent once at Heavy Metal Holocaust, and we were up the bill from the headliner that day was oh my God, Lemmy, Motorhead, and but the other band was Ozzy. And Ozzy had Randy Rhoads, Rudy Sarzo, and Tommy Aldridge, and that was one of the best rock bands I ever saw, ever in my life. And I've seen a lot of rock bands, but that day they had a good day. I could take or leave Ozzy; it doesn't do anything for me. But Randy Rhoads on guitar, oh my God. And like Rudy Sarzo on bass with Tommy Aldridge, that was a rhythm section. They absolutely kicked ass. Like they were so good. So, it wasn't the US Festival, but I thought I'd mention that one because that's where you were going.
Yeah, lovely question. Lovely answer. Lovely story. I've got another couple of questions here. They're kind of linked. You mentioned earlier you got to run around on stage and stuff while Gil's doing his singing. I've got a couple of questions. One from R&B says, what happened when you fell off stage and broke your leg in Odessa, Texas, 19th November 1986? And I've got one here from Jack Luminous who says, do you remember the Sport of Kings tour at the Syracuse War Memorial? Yngwie opened for you. You fell and played the rest of your show on a wooden stool. Is that two different events where you bit clumsy on stage, or is that the same thing?
No, I've always had a bad knee. I wrecked it playing high school football, and I never had an ACL. And then I had in my 40s, I had surgery to replace the ACL. But it's arthritic. It's always been lousy. But I was a real jock when I was a kid. I played a lot of sports. I played soccer. You guys call it football, but I played American football. For years in high school. I played baseball. I ran track. I was a fast runner. So I ended up playing a lot of sports. I played basketball in the winter. And so you do damage to yourself over the years. So sometimes jumping off a drum riser or miscalculating where the front of the stage was, there would be, as Paul Simon would say, incidents and accidents, what can I tell you? So sometimes, we would have to cancel a show because I had done myself damage. Sometimes I would go, well, I do the show, but I'm going to have to sit on a stool because I can't really get up and get around, So that's what those things were. And yes, there were some moments where, at Odessa, Texas, I don't really remember falling off the stage there, to be honest. But maybe that was because there was a concussion as well.
Possibly.
I don't know. Like, I do remember, I remember Syracuse and having to play on the stool. There were a couple of shows on that tour where I wasn't very mobile. There was one time we were playing, it was Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. I was going up a set of metal stairs. We had a set, and there were like metal steps that went up to get onto the monitors of the drum riser, sorry, the monitors on each side stage. You could even get back up right onto each PA wing. But I was going up the things and I stubbed a toe and, went down, and my shin hit the edge of the metal, and I was bleeding, and I was wearing white pants and a white socks. And so I could see the blood coming through my, I'm going, oh, that doesn't look too good. Oh, I think I'm bleeding. Whatever. I mean, shit happens, right? What can you do?
I've got one here from Alex Murphy, who says, "You're a true rock god, Rick. I've heard you weren't a fan of the theatrical musical video. You preferred just playing the song type shoots. Why is that? Did you have a bad experience with one, or is it just not your cup of tea to be acting things out?"
I just never liked the advent of MTV in the States. The idea of imagery being associated with songs. I much preferred a world where a song got played and everybody got to have their own little dream theater. Everybody got to have their own little theater of the mind. Like, that's what I liked about music, that it was very liberal in terms of every person getting to have their own take. And so when something came along where it was like, no, we're going to marry this imagery to the song, and now you're going to watch this a half a dozen times, and now that's the only thing you're going to see in your head. When you hear the song, and I was going, no, I want everybody to have their own, their own imagination going. Yeah. That's what music should do. So that was why initially I never liked it, and then I liked performance ones because it was like, well, okay, that's a traditional, conventional way for people to get music, is to watch a live performance. You're still going to get a little bit of the theater in your head, but now you're marrying it to this, hey, look at me kind of musician thing, but I mean, that always existed too. Although I should say, I played violin in high school in the orchestra. And there was a whole thing about classical music training. And I got a little of this too from classical guitar players from time to time, where they would go, this isn't about you, you're not supposed to make a big deal about yourself. The music is what you're doing. So no large gestures, no, like classical guys, they'd say, don't tap your foot. I go, don't tap your foot. Like I'd be playing, violin in the orchestra, and I'd be tapping my foot, and they goes, don't do that. Don't tap your foot. You're drawing attention to yourself. That you shouldn't do that, And so I think that answers the question in a different kind of a way. Like, I really always wanted it to be more about the music. I didn't want it to be about me. But, I think show business is also this thing about, hello, look at me, like, and there's no way around that. Once you're in the rock and roll circus, that's the way it's going to be. But I never wanted to be in movies. I never wanted to be an actor. I was happy being a musician.